latter part of summer. You're not going to get all that many nice days left. You could be doing all kinds of things other than being here. Instead, you're here. Is this how you guys treat your speakers here? Giving up your time to come out. It tells me one of two things about you. You are caring, conscientious, loving people who would do anything for the well-being of your families. Or you got no life whatsoever. Either way, thanks for coming. I am a father. I'm a father of 10. And that's why I'm here. It's quieter here and it smells better. People find out I got 10 kids, I always get this, alright? Now that you got your own kids, what have you learned? I've learned something very critical. I don't take them out in public. You take them out in public, invariably they'll pull some stunt. Embarrass and say, hey man, if people know you're a shrink, it's worse. You can almost hear them thinking out loud. Yeah, let's just see what Mr. Psycho Man does about this one. I figure this way though we get our vengeance. First 9-10 years of life out in public, they embarrass us. After that, pop, you embarrass them. Oh man, come on, Dad, don't wear the pants with the feathers. Dad! Don't wave at me when people are looking right at us, and I'm not going to pull your finger. My wife is a convert to the Catholic faith. She had a tough time with confession. She understood the theology, but she couldn't get it through her head that when you go to confession, you got to confess your own sins, not your husband's. Lest your father raised sin. She made her first confession when she was 39. Now, guys, if you ever read these marriage books, especially the Christian ones, they all say the same thing. Get on your knees for your wife. Get on your knees for your wife. Okay, so I read one of those chapters. I figure she goes into the confessional, I get on my knees, and I stay there the whole time she's in that confessional. So, I took a week off from work. She came out. Well, honey, what do you think? You're right, Ray, I feel good. That's good. So, what'd you tell Father? I'm not telling you, Ray. You can tell me you're not bound by the seal. I'm not telling you. I figured it out. If you want to know what your spouse or your kid tells Father in the confessional, you got to go in the back door. So, honey, what did you get for penance? Now, if you know what they got for penance, you can kind of reason backward to how wrapped up they were. She said, I guess I can tell you that. I got a rosary. A rosary? That's not bad for 40 years of pagan monk. She said, with the stations of the cross at every bead. Oh. Kind of wish you'd told me that before I married you. I still got to kiss you. Well, she asked me, Ray, what do you usually get for penance? Me? Most of the time? Half a sign of the cross. Sometimes a quarter, hardly enough time to levitate. I am a shrink. I've been shrinking for over 30 years. I used to be like 6'9". Number one reason that people want to speak to me, all settings, family, therapy, friends, church, school. Number one reason. Discipline. Okay, Mr. Expert Man. You tell me how to get him to stay in bed. I can't get him to stay in bed. Shoots his way down through the bedroom floor, drops into the family room. I'm back. You'll never be free. You'll never have another child. I'll be in your bed till I'm 16. That's why. And that girl's mouth. That snotty, snarly, you know, if I had talked to my parents that way, my head would have been rolling down the hallway. And the school people, they don't know. Do you know what they did last year? They closed during June, July, and August. I actually had to live with my own child during the daytime. How much am I supposed to be able to take? Now, many of you in here have raised your children. In my opinion, your generation was the last generation to actually have instincts, to actually have the confidence that says, I am mom, you are not. Nowadays, we got parents second-guessing themselves. Leave him on the potty 3 minutes too long. And he's going to grow up to be a tattoo-faced motorcycle gang member on Springer. You named him John because you were hoping it would help with the toilet training. What have we done to parents? Am I allowed to do this? Is that how I should have said it? Is that active listening, passive listening? Am I being too strict? Am I not being strict enough? You know what we've done to parents? One of the big factors, difference between your generation and mine below? Me. The shrinks. I'm everywhere. Crawling all over women's magazines, all over television, radio, putting out thousands of books and articles every year. Net message, what do you know? You're just a mom. You can stumble your way along. Hopefully you won't foul it up too bad. But you want to do this right? The new, modern, psychologically enlightened way? Yep. Got to be state certified, congressionally mandated, child development grade, Sacramento International on Oprah. Specialist. Why do we discipline kids? This discipline thing, I know for virtually all parents, is tougher than you ever thought. Well, I developed a technique to help you out. This is the best technique I have ever seen for disciplining any kid less. Works all families. To discipline your child, your grandchild less, you must simply do one thing. Lower your standards. But you get them low enough, you don't have to discipline at all. I told you, quit doing drugs in the living room. You discipline because you can't establish morals and character without it. I don't care how positive and affirming you are. I don't care how much active listening you do. I don't care how many stickers per square inch on your sticker system. Without discipline, no morals, no character. You know why else you discipline, folks? Because I guarantee you, every kid in here is going to get discipline. I guarantee it. The question is, by whom? You see, Mom, if you don't do it, because you're tired, or you feel guilty, or you think he won't like you, or your mother-in-law already thinks you're the biggest she-witch to fly the face of the earth. Your children, your grandchildren, they'll all get disciplined, every one of them, by those folks out there. A judge, a landlord, an army sergeant, a police officer, an employer. I shudder at this next one. A wife. Somebody's going to teach them. And the world will crush our children. I oftentimes tell folks discipline without love may be harsh. Love without discipline is child abuse. You're just setting it up. The world crushes undisciplined people. They don't like undisciplined people. Now, part of the problem here, parents used to understand this. They didn't feel too strict. No, they understood quiet, strong, confident authority is what you needed. Now, I remember the first time I looked at my mom. I said this, I was 3 years old. I don't like you. She looked at me. Raymond, you're a little behind. I stopped liking you last year. That was back before you could psychologically smack parents around, you know? One of my kids tells me I don't like you, so what? I got 5 or 6 who do. And you give them a moment, I got a 50% approval rating. My kids are now 26, 24, 23, 23, 22, 21, 18, 17, 16, and 14. It's 12 years between the oldest and the youngest. The remote broke. I told my wife, I said, get batteries. What are we going to do the next minute or two? I know what you're thinking. Got to talk a little bit. My 10 children are all blessings through adoption. Now, I don't know if any of you are adopted parents in here, but this is a benefit of adoption that the agencies do not tell you. If you adopt in December, you still get the tax deduction for the whole year. They pay for themselves that first year, then you start to fall behind because they eat more. You know, if you come back to the food, you can break even in September, October. My wife and I have been in this ongoing argument ever since we started getting more children. Ladies, I personally think you'll agree with me. First of all, my wife does not work for a living. I don't know what she does. You quote me, I'll deny I was even here. I've seen what the woman does. I want no part of what the woman does. When the kids were little, they were 10, under age 12. She'd take it to a grocery store. I go. If I was heavily sedated, I go. Had to see it strung out behind her like ducks. Hands at their side. It's not a touchy thing. And they wouldn't deviate 6 inches either way out of a straight line the whole 3 hours they were in there. No, they wouldn't. Leg irons wouldn't let them. I got 3 white kids, 2 Hispanic kids, 2 biracial kids, 3 black kids. People would look at my wife. Some of them were pretty bold. Is this some kind of club or something? Some of them wouldn't say a whole lot, but I could read their eyes. That major dork don't realize that ain't all he is. There's an interesting phenomenon that occurs in my office. A parent will come in, describe a list of trouble about this long. Then they'll say this. You know, I think I'm giving you the wrong impression. Overall, he's a pretty good kid. How's that? Well, he's not on drugs or anything like that. Folks, one of the new moral high bars out there. He's not on drugs or anything like that. She's miserable with me, you know that? She's argumentative, she's surly, she's disrespectful. But I must be doing something right. Because they love her at school. Everybody thinks she's a great kid. I ask my clients, what do you want looking back at you at age 22? What do you hope to say about that child? If you hope to say, well, you know, given the way kids are turning out nowadays, I'm counting my blessings. You should see how some of his friends turned out. Parole officer says one of the nicest kids he has. I tell them, you don't have to parent that hard. You parent the way everybody else is parenting. You'll probably have a kid not on drugs. But if you want to look at that kid at age 22 and say, you know, I'm not real objective, I'm his mother. That kid's 1 in 100. Morals, compassion, seeks God. That's a beautiful human being. Then I raise the question, are you willing to be a 1 in 100 parent? You can't parent like them anymore. You know that? You supervise here, they supervise here. They think they're strict. You give out social freedom 3, 4, 5 years later. And their buddies are getting it. And you know you're not going to be understood. You're going to be questioned. You're going to be critiqued and analyzed and second guessed. But I've noticed something. You want to raise the kind of kid that people admire, you're going to be different. And you're going to get analyzed and questioned. Oftentimes by your own family. But you stand strong. And I can almost guarantee you what you'll hear. You got great kids. Of course, you notice sometimes you don't get credit for it. You are so lucky. You just got good kids. You got Chastity and Angelica. I didn't get good kids. I got Chucky, Damien, Cujo, and Lucifer. It was a luck of the draw, you know. I just got bad kids. of psychology from my dad. My dad went to God before I was born. Excuse me, Lord. I'm going to raise a whole bunch of kids. I don't want to complicate the whole affair. Give me 8 or 10 phrases. I'll just repeat them over and over. And a lot of dads in here. We typically don't get this many dads, so I got to stop for a second, gentlemen, to tell you what I have been hearing from the women. More and more women are telling me they are the authorities in their home. They set the standards, they set the terms, they do the discipline, and Disney Dad over here, Mr. Easygoing Good Time, Mr. Laid Back, not notice nothing, Mr. Honey, I was that way when I was a kid. I think I turned out pretty good. And the women are thinking, let's gather the relatives and vote. More and more women are telling me they're taking the lead, and we guys, at best, are along for the ride. Do what your mom says. Do what your mom says. I do what your mom says. Everybody does what your mom says. Do what your mom says, or you'll get real hurt. Gentlemen, I have a soundbite for you. Protect. I doubt you'd ever let another human being talk to your wife the way that child or grandchild is talking to your wife. Next time you hear her locked into a battle with a kid, don't sit in the mark launcher thinking to yourself, I close my eyes, I can't tell which one's a 10-year-old. Get in there. Protect. That's not just your mom you're talking to that way. That's my wife. You go to your room. I'm going to find out what she wants me to do about this. Why, you can't protect without her permission. I think don't go that far. And then I'm going to do more. I'll tell you what, guys. Stand up for that woman a few times. They will feel very romantic toward you. Sometimes I'll give my boys a couple bucks. When I'll give her another grief, I'll be right down. We're pretty good until she found out I was only giving her a couple bucks. Dads are not as versatile as moms. Dads are all kind of stamped out of the same mold, and I finally figured out why that is. You know how moms have to go to Lamaze classes to learn how to be moms? She's looking at me like, did I leave the iron on? Dads must go to La Paz classes. First time I heard this one, I was 3 years old. You gonna cry? I'm going to give you something to cry about. First of all, they're going to fling that one around. Raymond, you go get me something to spank you with. But fathers are generous people, you know. We don't get credit for it. My dad was always giving me something 8, 9 times a day. Dad, can't shovel the snow, I got a bellyache. Raymond, I'm going to give you a bellyache. No, I'm going to give you something. You are not going to find I'm going to give you a bellyache in any parenting book. I have looked. By today's enlightened psychological standards, my father was a parenting Neanderthal. Judge it by the acid question. Not was he psychologically correct. Folks, a culture is in big trouble when psychological correctness is replacing moral correctness. When more and more people are asking, is it normal? Rather than, is it right? See, for Pop, the question was not, is it normal? The question was, how will this work to teach the moral lesson I wish to teach my children? For Dad, high school dropout during World War II, 50% success rate with his discipline. You know, that's sky high. Teenagers, 30% is good. Spouses, 4%. You know the definition of impending middle age? I'll euphemize it for the young ears in here. It's when your wife gives up intimacy for Lent, and you don't realize it until Monday after Easter. These guys are looking at me like, what's your point, man? Bishop, we know when that is. January 6th, August 28th. what the shrinks tell you to do, most of them are not coming from a Christian perspective. They're coming from a secular perspective. And what they value may not be at all what your faith values. Do a little test. Go to the computer. Type in child, self-esteem, search. Hundreds of thousands of options. Why? Because the experts believe self-esteem is the preeminent moral virtue. Type in child, humility, search. When's the last time you heard an expert talk about humility? But that's at the very core of what we believe. Can you imagine Christ going up to the apostles? Yo, Simon! I was toying there for a while to change your name to Peter, but I decided against it because I really didn't know what effect that would have on your self-esteem. You know, you're kind of an adult. You know, changing your name now, changing your identity, that could have long-term ramifications here. But I'll tell you what, I've talked to my father, and he and I believe that you have a future in this company. If you can conceive it, you can believe it. If you can believe it, you can achieve it. 12 more weeks at Tony Robbins' management courses, Simon, and I think you'll be ready to head this operation. I doubt it. My dad had two things. He loved me desperately, and I know you got that. But the other thing is something I see slipping away from more and more parents. When Pop said to me, Raymond, I asked you once, please, leave your sister alone. Have a seat. Don't get up till I tell you. He didn't raise his voice to 140 decibels. Negotiate with me for 3 hours through a federal arbitrator. Promised to buy me a red Corvette if I got 9 stickers in a row. When Pop said, Raymond, have a seat, I had a seat. I couldn't conceive of getting up. I knew something real bad would happen. I didn't know what it was. I didn't want to find out. I never found out. I never got up! Sometimes I'll teach my clients, what would your mother or father have done had you talked to them the way that child was talking to you? I never would have talked to my mom that way. Why not? Well, I just knew. You knew what? Something would have happened. What? I don't know. Why don't you know? It never happened. Why didn't it happen? I never did it. Why didn't you do it? Something would have happened. What? Who's on first? I don't know. Third base! I call it that sense, that quiet, confident sense of parenthood. Remember the look? Many of your parents had the look. When you look at a kid now, he looks back and you're like, what are you looking at? You want a piece of this? My dad used to bounce the look off our heads when we were at Mass. Bounce it down my sister's all the way to me at the end. By the time I got to me, it still had enough juice left in it, I wet myself. We'd get up, go to communion, I'd come back at the edge of the pew like this. And the Italian Catholic ladies, I am Italian, you could hear them thinking, see, that's the way a young man is supposed to act. Look at that, look at that. Letting his sister, he's going to be a priest. No. He's going to skip priest. He's going to just jump straight to bishop. That wasn't it. I'm not sitting the rest of Mass in urine. My 10 kids have what the experts would call risk factors. A risk factor, in psychological parlance, is anything that would make a kid much tougher to raise. Poor prenatal care, poor postnatal care, abuse in the womb, neglect in the womb, high maternal stress, low birth weights, heavy drug exposure, crack, narcotics, barbiturates, marijuana, cocaine, nicotine, alcohol. My son Peter, birth mom was told, you're pregnant, don't worry about it. There's a blood clot growing next to the baby. Baby grows, blood clot grows. Blood clot suffocates baby. Your problem is solved. The problem made it. He was born 2 months premature, 1 month intensive care, but Petey made it. My daughter Elizabeth. Birth mom got pregnant in the 7th grade. Went to get it taken care of. she didn't realize she was in her 7th month. And many of the groups I talk to are not like you. You are Catholic, you are Christian. Most of you have a pro-life worldview. Many of the groups I talk to are not pro-life. At best, they are amateur life. I've gone too fast for this whole section. You didn't get enough snacks, did you? That's probably what the thing was. The guy started his buddy, he says, "Is that snack thing still open? Maybe you can get over there." So I watched their eyes when I described this next couple of things. Lizzie's birth mom was in her 7th month. Still legal. Harder. They're bigger. You can't flush them out, suck them out. You got to pull them out. And when you pull them out, they rip apart. Arms, faces, chunks of flesh, limbs just tear off of that baby. That little girl didn't know that. She panicked. Called us the next day. We weren't prepared for her 10th kid. We thought we were done at 9. I guess you could say Lizzie was an unplanned adoption. We weren't practicing safe phone. My son Sam, who will be joining the service here next week, birth mom was told 2 weeks before his due date, something is very wrong, we'd like to test. Tentative diagnosis, corpus callosum agenesis. That's a severe birth defect. Worst case scenario, that's institution for life. You gotta figure, everybody in that 35-year-old birth mom's whole world was against her having this child. Hey, personally, I'm opposed to this too. But this is an exception. This is why we do this kind of testing. This child's not going to have any quality of life here. Are you going to be able to protect him in an institution for the next 20, 30 years? Why don't we ask him if he wants to live in an institution that way, huh? You got to do the right thing. She did. She gave birth to Sammy. Sammy will be 21 in November. If I don't shoot him in the head with a bazooka first. As far as we can tell, he's a perfectly normal young man. It was a shadow on the ultrasound. The test was totally inaccurate. So my kids have this blend of junk, developmental junk, that should make them harder to raise and slower to socialize, and more impulsive and more immature, slower to form consciences. Yes, I do have a few like that. I would not consider any of my 10 kids strong-willed. This dude is one toke over the line, sweet Moses. How could you have 10 kids under those circumstances, not consider any of them strong-willed? Well, come on, folks. You know how everybody now describes children. Your generation didn't do this. Mine and below does it constantly. Mind of her own, stubborn streak a mile wide. 7. The child is 7 going on 17. 7 going on 17. So determined. So high maintenance child. Very high maintenance child. High activity, very high spirited, very high spirited child. Very challenging youngster. Very challenging youngster. Pediatrician said we have a difficult child. Difficult child is redundant. You see who the smart people are, bad joke. Am I delusional? No. I think there's a simple explanation. The strongest willed of my 10 kids is not stronger willed than his mother. That's why we got so many strong-willed kids nowadays, folks. Because the big people have lost will. We're not as sure of ourselves. We're not as confident. We're not as quietly authoritative. We're not. It's part of the problem. Now, don't miss here, but you can get carried away. My dad got carried away. He said things made me neurotic. Raymond, you shut your mouth and eat. I'll teach you to backtalk your mother, young man. Come on, Dad, I already know how. show you to hit your brother. Go ahead. You fall out of that tree and break both your legs, Buster. Don't come running to me. Chad picked me up at the airport. We were talking on the way here. Chad, I owe you an apology. I'm not the conversationalist I used to be. I can explain now. My wife and I have been getting these little tips. Every time we do, she brings up the same theme. Ray, would you please get out of the 70s? Ladies, one thing about us guys, you know this. You tell us to do something one time, we do it. I'm sensing incredulity here. I didn't want to hear this anymore. Our anniversary was coming up. I'm going to go get her a gift by myself. I'm not going to bring any of my daughters to help me. I got 5 boys and 5 estrogen Americans. I'm not bringing any of the girls to help me. The girls know their mother up one side, down the other. Boys don't even know they got a mother half the time. You know? The average 5-year-old girl walks up to her mother and does this. Mother, while I do appreciate the guidance you've given me these first few years, I feel compelled to tell you you were wrong on most of it. Why don't you raise Dad? He's got about 10 or 12 more years of middle school to go through. The average 16-year-old boy is still doing this. Mom, where's the ice cubes? No, I asked Dad. He don't know where they are either. My daughter Liz is 14. She's been able to run the whole family for the last 5-6 years. My son James is 18. Still giving his brother wedgies. These are not the same species. I don't want to hear this get out of the 70s stuff. Our anniversary is coming up. I'm going to get her a gift and shut this down. So I went out. I bought her one of those mood rings. See, that's kind of how she reacted, sort of like that. All right, ladies, go ahead and laugh. Those things work. They do. It's in a good mood, turns green. It's in a bad mood, leaves a red mark on my forehead. We want results because we're a microwave society. How long is this going to take? You know, I tried everything with this child. Nothing works. Finally, I got so frustrated. I sent him next door to run an errand, move the family while he was gone. Hey, Bishop. How often have you had somebody come into the confessional and say, bless me, Bishop, for... Well, I'll tell you what. Why don't you just bless me, okay? Because I really don't have any sins to tell you. Sometimes I do, but I get rid of them in 2 or 3 months, and then they never bother me again. If you can't conquer a sin in 2 or 3 months, something's wrong with you, okay? As a matter of fact, I've been making up stuff just to come in and visit with you, because you're a nice man and everything, and you get really easy penances. You know, trying to be kind to somebody, that's cool. Or, Bishop, or most people like me, bless me, Father. Look, here's the list. It's the same stuff I've been doing the last 40 years, okay? How come we can do that, but if a kid, after getting disciplined for 6 weeks, doesn't really change his behavior, what is wrong with him? When's he going to get this? Alexander Bell. You embarrass me when I'm on the phone. You know that? I can't even carry on a conversation in this house with somebody without sounding like a crazy lunatic. We got a new house rule here. From this point forward, when I get on the phone, please be respectful. Please. If you don't, I'm going to excuse myself from the phone. I'm going to put you in your rooms for the rest of the call. If you come out, I'll ground you for the day. And by the way, respect does include none of this. long you have to implement your phone rule until you get peace when you're on the phone, I have no idea. 20 times? 50? 235? I don't know. It doesn't matter. I always tell my clients the easiest part of my job is giving you ideas. I can give you 20 ideas for every piece of misconduct you tell me about. I can't give you the will to do it. That's where it breaks down for most of us. It's not that we don't know what to do. We don't do what we know. You won't get away with this. Oh, hello, Bishop Regard. How are you? Okay. Yes. We would be flattered to be the role model family for the church children love in. Bishop, could you just excuse me for 1 second, please? I'm going to have a love chat with the children. Yeah. Well, they're precious blessings from God. You know how that is. We love them desperately. Yeah. We love you too, Bishop. Okay. Well, they're getting a little antsy. Yeah, we're half hour past Rotary Circle. Okay, we still pray on our knees and broken glass in Aramaic. Except when we're levitating. Doesn't everybody? Okay, Bishop, I'll get a long extension here. Yeah, they're getting giddy. This just take a second and I'll be right back. Okay, thank you. You're back. I'm going to spend your time. Get away from her. What's that, Bishop? No, that's a neighbor lady. She's been talking to her kids like that for years. We do pray for her. No, she won't come. She hates kids. The culture says why? You know, culture says, oh man, can you do absolution from this far away? Please don't do like the last priest I went to confession to. It was really bad. I was about halfway through. He grabs his ears and he was running out of the confession going, no more, no more. I only got the sins up to hell, you know. Hey, by the way, I want to go to confession like the politicians do. Bless me, Father. Mistakes were made. And I would like to apologize if God took something that I did out of context and took offense. If he misunderstood my motive, I would like to say I'm sorry for his short-sightedness. The culture wants to know why. The culture says, well, why is this child acting this way? Now, most of the time, by the way, people will call me to see their kid. I don't see their kid. I see the parent. That's where the change takes place. We have to look this way first to see what we're doing to make it worse, make it better. 90% of the time anyway. Some kids are just tough as nails to raise. But much of the time when parents think the kid is that tough, we got to look here first. I do a lot of marriage counseling. One time every 5 or 6 years, I would like somebody to come into my office and say this. You know why I'm here? Because it has occurred to me, after all these years of marriage, that I am extremely difficult to live with. And I brought my spouse in to help me take a hard look at myself on how I can improve. No. You know what I brought him in? I'm going to tell you what's wrong with him, Dr. Ed, and you told him to straighten up. We don't look this way first. Before we go to Q&A, I just want to give you a couple of the more common this way explanations. Diet. Cut out anything red. Cut out anything sweet. Cut out anything artificial. Cut out anything that remotely tastes good. Give them a dry, cracked wheat, brown berry, tofu, and sandwich on bean sprouts. This kid will get better math scores, kiss his sister on the lips before he paints murals on the church ceiling. One problem with diet, the research doesn't support it. It's good for health and nutrition, of course. Our kids' diets are atrocious. But the idea that if I eat this, I'm going to act like this over here, very, very weak link. That notion's been swallowed whole by our culture. He went to that party last night. He had 3 Reese's peanut butter cups, 2 cans of Mountain Dew, and a Kit Kat. He came home and torched the dog. Now, I told those people, no Kit Kat. It was the Kit Kat. Probably not. Birth order, middle child syndrome. I tell parents you're not afraid of middle child syndrome, don't have an odd number of kids. You got an odd number, have another one. Give one away. Wipe off that middle spot. Birth order only holds one place. And a very little bit. Oldest, only. As a group, a little more independent, a little more achieving, maybe they develop a shape quicker. I don't think that's our position. We don't change our styles. That first kid, you blew up everything she came within 50 feet of. Last kid, you throw this big dirt ball. Here, chew on that. Wipe your mouth off in a gas can before you come in the house. First kid, do a videotape of every burp and bowel movement he ever had. Last kid, one snapshot of the birth, one of the wedding rehearsal dinner. Dad! How come I got no pictures? That's not true, son. Your sister did a popsicle stick sketch of you in kindergarten. We got that. Besides, you look like your sister. Use her pictures. First kid, you sneak into his room every night, you stick a mirror underneath his nostrils. Make sure he's still breathing. Last kid, you tell the dog, get out of the crib! Don't lick her in the face! No, I was talking to the baby. You don't know where that mouse been. Poor dog. Somebody asked my wife, our 9th one, Peter, was about 2-3 months old, is Petey sleeping through the night yet? And my wife said, I don't know if he is, we are. You kind of get to that point. And those of you who are grandparents, you lie in wait for us to foul up. My mom, some years ago, was at our house, sitting at the island, not saying a word. And my mom's Italian. If she doesn't talk in at least 30 seconds, something is terribly wrong. She's sitting there staring, and I said, hey, Mom, what are you thinking? She said, well, Ray, I'm thinking that you and Randy have really gotten sloppy in your parenting. What are you talking about? Lizzie, now Lizzie at the time was about 7. Said, Lizzie gets away with murder. The older kids would have gotten nailed for doing some of this stuff, and you guys look at Lizzie and giggle and say, isn't she cute? I said, Mom, wait a minute, you don't understand here. Lizzie is a very cooperative child. We don't have to discipline Lizzie. I'll give you an example. Last night, I noticed it's about a half hour past her bedtime. It's about 3 a.m. I said, Elizabeth, bedtime, please. Immediate cooperation. She took the cigarette out of her mouth, put it in the ashtray. Other kids flick their butts on the flower beds. In the ashtray. Tell me I'm losing this skills. And you know, some ideas are so dumb. Where's the sweet lady that she had 4 boys sitting here? There they are, up there crawling all over you like little maggots in this kind of petri dish, aren't they? Does it kind of smell like a swamp at your house, you know? The boy, you know what it is? Boys giggle. If somebody passes gas, the boys go nuts. They just giggle and start laughing. The girls go, oh, that's gross. That's disgusting. I don't know, I tell you. You know what? I don't say it around here, never mind. Some of my best stuff I have to take off. The experts, when I was in school, essentially were on this journey that there were no differences between boys and girls. As a result, there's no differences between men and women. We're just socialized into different roles. That's right. You give a little girl a front-end loader and she'll carry it around for 5 years and become a special ops tank commando. You give a little boy a baby doll, he'll carry it around for 4 years and become a sweet preschool teacher. 50% of little boys will rip the head off that baby doll and turn it into a machine gun. We are wired different. God says it, human history says it, the research says it. For example, little girls, women, are more verbal than little boys, men. They talk earlier. They talk better. They talk longer. That's why if a mom drifts into a discipline trap, it's usually something along these lines. Talk, talk, nag, nag, repeat, repeat, negotiate. Talk, talk, nag, nag, repeat, repeat, negotiate. If a dad drifts into a discipline trap, usually something along these lines. Tolerate, tolerate. Oblivious, oblivious. Ignore, ignore. Tolerate, tolerate. Oblivious, oblivious. Smash! One time my wife was taking the 5 girls somewhere in a big van. I had the boys with me in my vehicle. She pulls up next to me at the light, looks down at me, and does this. The extent of the conversation in our car occurred about 17 miles down the interstate when my son Sam says from the back seat, "Oh, jeez, James, Dad, tell him to roll down the window." Women are so aware, you ladies are so aware, and we guys don't understand this. How can you do this? How can you notice everything about everybody at all times, forever? To be used upon men who get to a point in our lives, if we notice our wives are out there, we get extra credit. My girls would come downstairs before Mass and do this. Sarah, what's the matter? Sarah, it's 30 feet from your bed down here. What could possibly have upset you in that distance? This is touching me right here. I don't like the way this touches me right here. My socks are twisted. They got strings on them, and they won't stay in a straight line. My boys will come down. Peter, is that pee on your shirt? Okay, now, Dad. The first day of kindergarten. Do we have any of the kindergarten folks in here? Got any of the kindergarten group teachers? Anywhere? Back there? First day of kindergarten, I asked my son, "Andrew, how was school today?" "Okay." Good. That's real good. So what did you do? "Nothing." Or, ladies, if you have a very sharing, connecting male, "Stuff." What is the name of the lady who stands in front of you for 6.5 hours and talks? I don't think she told anybody, Dad. Joshua says his is called teacher. I'll ask her if they're related. First day of kindergarten, I asked my daughter, "Hannah, how was school today, baby?" "Well, okay, Daddy. My teacher's name is Mrs. Bartley. Mrs. Bartley has 3 children, Jessica, Jason, and Ash. I know the birthdays are favorite colors, and temples are. We did 12 activities. The donkey kind of activity started at 8:07. Is that a stupid time or what?" Actually, the best friend till 8:30, and she got mad at me. I don't even know what I did. But Jessica told Tiffany I could be her forever friend till tomorrow 9 o'clock. Now, Mrs. Bartley has this little brown mark right here. You can't tell it's there until she goes over to the window and she bends down like this. If she does, the sun comes through the Egyptian lines off the clock, reflects through her black forest, forms a horizon on the window with a brown bottle, left forward, right. Daddy, nobody saw it except me. So I figured those boys needed to know something this year. They both had the same teacher. Watch out for psychological correctness. It's a quagmire. You will overthink, you will overanalyze, you will overtalk, you will overnegotiate, you will underenjoy. Yes, you can get better at this. Yes, you can gain skills. Yes, you can buy my books and tapes. Hear that subliminal advertising there? Nobody picked it up. But there comes a point, dear people, where you talk yourself into analysis paralysis. When you're wondering all the time, if you're getting frustrated like crazy with your kid, you've got to look at yourself and say, why am I so frustrated like this? Yes, children are naturally frustrating on their own, but we can dramatically magnify it. And if you don't have authority, I'm going to give you an authority test right now. Very simple. Tonight, tomorrow, if your child does something bad or something wrong, and by the way, are we still allowed to use those words? We got a moral man to set aside the language. That behavior, unacceptable. Ice picking your sister's head, inappropriate choices. Inappropriate choices. Take 2 stickers off your chart. I'll give it back to the hospital when the week stops. Child does something bad or wrong, I want you to do a simple authority test. One time only. Calm tone of voice. Levy whatever consequence you see fit. That's disrespectful, son. Go to the corner. Put your hands behind your back. I'll tell you when you come out. Put your head down to the dining room table. I'll set the timer. Timer goes off. You can lift it. I want you to write a 400-word apology to your grandma for talking to her that way when she watched you. I know grandma can be difficult. I live with her son. That's still no reason to talk to your grandma that way. You're going to ask her tomorrow if she wants you to read her flower beds for 2 hours too. Look at me your favorite CD. I know which one it is. It's mine forever. That's the cost of kicking a wall because you're mad. You can call your sister that? You can call your brother that? You're going to write 25 nice things about them. They're not 25 nice things about it. Make them up. I do with your father. One time, calm tone of voice, you levy a consequence, and then you observe. Step back. Watch the child's reaction. How much resistance do you get immediately, and how intense? Does he come out of the room 26 times? Does he throw an hour and a half fit? Does he start to argue with you for 2 hours? Does he give you a look that says, yeah, you and what army? You see, people, when that happens, it isn't the child's temperament. It's their perception of us. My wife is 5'3", about 120 pounds. My boys are all bigger than she is. Could pick her up and spin her. They won't. We learned really early on with Mom. She loves him desperately. But you don't do this to her. Plus the old man standing behind him, going to kill him. Something that's going to do. She's standing there. It's like that dog that yaps like crazy, and then there's this big Rottweiler behind you, the dog's back struck a little bit, and the Rott's standing back there just staring at this other dude. The dog feels pretty full of himself. Well, then back her wives up like that. But she established that authority early on, loving, strong authority. Now, if you say to yourself, Dr. Rager, leaving us hanging. What do we do if they don't cooperate? Well, I hate to do this to you, but we're out of time. Now, you want to know, it's in those books. I got a number of books on authority to help you stand strong. Most common discipline questions I get. Books on marriage, how to make your marriage dramatically better by doing small things. Books on the faith. Books and DVDs on the faith. Why do Catholics do what we do? A lot of stuff there to help you out. Okay, everything I have comes with a Springer guarantee. Your children will never be on Jerry Springer. Unless that's from a past life on another planet. So, I'm going to close with this. Got some parents in here who have raised their children. And for many of you, one of the biggest pieces of distress is that your children have left the faith. They've either left it, or they've neglected it, or they've totally rejected it. Very, very common now in American culture. Very common. You beat yourself up. What did we do wrong? What could we have done more? How could I have avoided this? What is wrong? I feel like a failure. All right. I have a series of questions I'm going to ask you. Please just say yes or no. Is there a God? Was Christ God? Was he sinless? Could he perform miracles? Did he have a perfect understanding of human nature? Could he get most people to follow him? No offense, dear parents. If the God-man himself couldn't get most people, who do you think you are? He can do miracles. You can't even do a stinking card trick. Don't do this to your children. I think this is the worst thing you can say. Some of you are living with this now. I can't wait until you have 3 kids. Just like you. Remember one thing while you're firing that one off. You're going to be the grandparent to those children. God bless you all. Thanks so much.